Helen is 43 years old. She is an architect. She has a house, a husband, and a daughter who studies in another city. Her life looks like a well-constructed building. The load-bearing structures are solid, the facade is flawless, the interior finishes are expensive and high quality. She sits at the dining room table. Dinner for two is set on the table. Candles, white napkins. Helen looks at her phone. She texted her husband, "Dinner in 20 minutes. I have an important call with investors at 9. The phone rings. It's her daughter, Maya. In the background, music and unfamiliar voices can be heard. Maya says she won't be coming home for the weekend. They have a project to work on. Helen asks how her back is, reminds her about the orthopedic insoles. Maya replies irritably that she is 19, not 90, and hangs up. Helen walks to the mirror, studies herself. She is fit, her hair is styled, her clothes are expensive. There is fatigue in her eyes that no makeup can hide. Mark enters. He is 47. He doesn't look at the dinner. He places an envelope on the table and says they need to talk. Helen doesn't look up from her phone. She is checking the presentation for the investors. She says she's listening, but she has exactly 17 minutes. Mark says he is leaving. Helen looks up. She asks if he has any court hearings this week. Mark says no, he is leaving her, and he already left, a year ago. Helen looks at him. She does not cry. She looks at him the way she looks at a blueprint when she discovers a fatal mistake at the final stage of construction, a mistake that makes the entire project unusable. She asks who she is. Mark says it doesn't matter. What matters is that he no longer wants to live according to her schedule. He sold his share of the house. She has 2 months to buy him out or put it up for sale. He leaves. Helen picks up a glass of wine, looks at it, and puts it back down. She opens her laptop. The smiling faces of investors appear on the screen. She turns on the camera, smiles, and says she's glad to see everyone. Her hand is shaking under the table. 3 weeks later, Helen's office is empty. There are no more employees. She sits across from a banker. The banker says they cannot extend her credit line. Her company is her, and she is currently an unpredictable asset. Helen says she has a portfolio. She built skyscrapers. The banker replies that people are building chicken coops these days. The market is dead for people like her. She walks outside. It is raining. Her car is being towed for unpaid parking tickets. She didn't realize the notification subscription had expired because Mark always handled that. She stands in the rain holding a folder containing her diploma from a prestigious university. Helen meets Leo in a bar. He is in his late 50s. He gave her her first commission and still follows her career. Leo says she has painted herself into a corner. She is a good architect, but she never learned to sell herself without her husband. She was her wedding, her house, her connections. No connections, no commissions. Helen says she designed 3 skyscrapers downtown. Leo replies that was 10 years ago, but there is this strange guy, a former soldier. He bought an old factory in the industrial zone. He wants to build a hotel for dogs there. Not just a kennel, a full-service spa for animals. He has money, but no sense. Going there is beneath her, but it's something. Helen wants to object, but she looks at the balance in her phone. Helen parks her old car at the gate of the former factory. The area is industrial. Rusted warehouses, puddles. She walks inside. In the center of the hangar stands a man. He is around 45. He wears a work jacket, stained jeans, and has tattoos on his arms. He looks at blueprints on a tablet with unexpected focus. He introduces himself as Jack. He asks if she is the architect. Helen says yes. Helen Grant. She was told he needs a project. Jack says he doesn't need a project. He needs someone who can explain to the builders how to install heated floors and make sure the dogs can't hear the ventilation noise. They can hear ultrasound. Does she know anything about ultrasound? Helen says she knows about load-bearing structures and seismic stability. She designed skyscrapers. Jack chuckles. He says congratulations, and he pulled people out of the rubble of those skyscrapers. He asks if she can make things comfortable for dogs or not. Helen turns to leave. She trips over a disassembled engine. Jack catches her by the elbow. She smells metal and sweat. He smells expensive perfume that does not belong in this environment. On the way home, Helen cries from humiliation. Maya calls. Maya says she needs $40,000 for the semester. The scholarship didn't cover it. Helen says she will figure it out. Maya gets irritated again. She says her mother always asks about her back. Does she even hear her? Helen turns the car around and drives back to the factory. Jack is sitting on a crate, eating a sandwich. Helen says she will take the project, but she works according to her standards. No bartering, no discounts. This will be the best dog hotel in the city. Jack corrects her. Hotel, not kennel. The dogs will live there, not hide. He will manage the construction. He is the general contractor. She is the pencil. He extends his hand. Helen looks at his calloused hand and shakes it with her fingertips, as if afraid of getting dirty. Days pass. Helen arrives at the construction site in immaculate suits, with a laser level and printed blueprints. Jack wears a hard hat, swears, and talks to the workers. They argue constantly. Jack points out that a support column is 15 centimeters to the left of where it is on her drawing. Helen protests. Jack explains that, according to her drawing, a sewage pipe runs there, which she forgot to mark because she was only thinking about aesthetics and not about how the water will drain. The workers laugh. Helen says she does not stoop to discussing plumbing with laborers. Jack replies that she should go back to her university and draw there. This is a construction site. Here, there is concrete, water, and dogs. Nothing works without them. Helen leaves, slams the door, gets in her car, she breathes, she opens her phone, and watches tutorials on how to design ventilation for kennels. Late evening, Helen stayed late to check the floor pouring. Jack is still at the site. They sit on the front steps. Jack asks why she didn't say right away that her husband is an asshole. Helen is surprised. Jack explains she has been wearing her wedding ring on her right hand for 3 weeks, but there is a white mark on her left. She took it off recently. He notices details. It's his job. Helen says she didn't want it to affect the work. Jack says it does affect it. She is angry. Anger is good for a fight, but bad for construction. He got divorced too. His wife couldn't handle the deployments. She said she married a man, not an absence. Helen asks how he coped. Jack says he got dogs. They don't ask where you've been, they're just happy you're back. He pauses. He asks if she wants tea. He has some in his trailer, the real kind, not from a bag. Helen nods. 2 months pass. Helen arrives at the site in jeans and a work jacket that Jack lent her. She helps mark the walls. She laughs with the workers. She brings them homemade pastries before she thought baking was for housewives. One day, Maya shows up without warning. She sees her mother kneeling on the floor, checking the seams of the flooring. Her hair is messy, there is dirt on her cheek. Maya asks what she is doing. Helen stands up, happily shows her the area for large breeds, explains about the rain shower. Maya looks at her mother with horror and a strange respect. She says she looks different. Helen replies that she looks alive. Jack appears from around the corner with 2 mugs of coffee. He hands one to Helen. The gesture is natural, as if they do it every day. Maya's eyes move from her mother to Jack. She says Dad called. He wants to pick up his things from the garage. Helen says to tell him the garage is her workshop now, and she put his things up for sale. Jack smirks. Maya looks at her mother and, for the first time, does not see the usual anxiety in her eyes. The hotel is almost finished, a building of glass and wood, integrated into the industrial landscape. Helen and Jack stand on the roof. Jack says she is a genius. He thought it would be a shed, but she made art. Helen replies that it is just good ventilation and the right angle of light. She pauses. She says she was contacted by investors from a large company. They saw the project. They are offering her a partnership. She will build skyscrapers again. Jack says that is what she always dreamed of. Helen says she thought so too. They look at each other. Jack says he does not know how to go to fancy restaurants and jackets. He will not be her +1 at social events. If she goes back to that life, he will not be there. He will stay here with the dogs. Helen asks if he is asking her to choose. Jack replies that he is just telling her how it is. He is too old to pretend. He leaves. Helen stays on the roof. Below her is her past, the skyscrapers, and her present. this hotel that she built from nothing with her own hands. The hotel opening day. Everyone is invited. Local business owners, journalists, Leo. Mark arrives with a young woman. He tries to talk to Helen, but she is polite and distant. Mark says she looks great. He heard she is working with some builder. Helen replies that she is working with an architect and partner. At that moment, one of the dogs Jack rescued, a pit bull named General, breaks out of its enclosure and runs straight toward the group of guests. The women scream. Mark jumps back. Helen does not jump back. She kneels down. She calls General in a calm voice. The pit bull runs to her, wagging its tail. Helen puts her arms around its neck. Cameras click. Mark watches her. He has never seen her like this, calm, strong, in work clothes, with dirt on her knees, but completely happy. Jack watches from a distance. Helen lifts her head and looks at him across the yard. Evening. The guests have left. Helen and Jack sit on the steps. In front of them are 2 mugs and a bottle of champagne that no one opened. Helen says she called the investors. She told them she is taking a year off. Jack asks why. She wanted skyscrapers. Helen says she wanted to prove that she was worth something, but it turned out she is worth something not because she draws skyscrapers, but because she can start from nothing in an industrial zone and build something real. She looks at the hotel. She says she spent her whole life asking her daughter only about her back. She was afraid she would have scoliosis like her. She controlled her spine because she couldn't control her own life. Jack asks how her back is now. Helen laughs. She says her daughter's back is fine, and her head is fine too. She is proud of her. For the first time, she pauses. She asks Jack if he is going to keep living in the trailer. Jack says he is thinking of building a house on the plot next door, but he needs a good architect, one who isn't afraid to work with her hands. He extends his hand. Helen looks at his hand. She places her palm in his. A calloused hand meets a hand that now has calluses too. Jack asks if it's a deal. Helen says it's a deal. 1 year later, Helen stands on the plot next to the hotel wearing a work jacket. Jack is beside her. They are pouring the foundation. Maya pulls up. She is no longer a student but an intern at an architecture firm. She gets out of the car with 3 mugs of coffee. Maya says she drew up a plan for the guest room. She asks if Helen will take a look. Helen says to show her. Maya adds that General chewed up her leash again. Jack says that's what happens when you leave it lying around. Get used to it, this is a construction site. The 3 of them laugh. Helen looks at the blueprint of their future house. It shows a large terrace, a workshop for Jack, and a room for Maya. She picks up a pen and puts a bold dot at the bottom of the drawing.